Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Sports for a fun video today. We're going to be comparing the Springbok squad that won the World Cup in 2023 to the current Springbok squad right now gathered in Johannesburg for the first two tests of Australia. 35 players that ended up representing us in the World Cup 2 years ago. It was a 33-man squad initially. Injuries to Malcolm Marx, injury to Maxima Pimpi, saw the Kanya and Handré Pollard called up quite famously in terms of not replacing, a like-for-like player. So we ended up using 35 players. We've currently got 37, effectively 38 men in the squad right now because Jasper Wiese, despite being banned, is in Johannesburg and is currently training with the squad itself. And basically what we're going to be doing is by doing this comparison, we can start to get an idea of if the World Cup was in September, for example, what would our squad look like? Now, obviously, it's going to be quite different in 2 years' time because a lot of these players, are new. Players like Amarus van der Merwe, Bowen Venter, Asnati, and Tlabakanya, they've got one test cap to their name. So, right now, if everyone was fit, you can maybe Wajagwan and everyone was fit, they probably wouldn't go to the World Cup. But the idea is that they are potentially going to go to the World Cup in 2 years' time. And Rassie Erasmus said yesterday he would like them to have at least 10 tests under their belt if they're going to be part of the World Cup itself. Now, what we've also done, we've classified the players, or we've kind of given players a bit of a color coding from the squad 2 years ago. Green if you're currently still in the squad. A sort of light orange if you're kind of injured, because it means you're kind of probably still in the mix, but currently you're not available. But the reason we're kind of putting you in orange is maybe there's question marks about whether you'll be able to come back from those sort of injuries and whether you're going to kind of be able to come back immediately into the mix. Now, this is just for, the Rugby World Cup squad 2 years ago. We haven't sort of included the injuries within the Rugby Championship squad right now. So like your Cameron Harnicorns, for example, who's currently injured, would be part of the squad. So we haven't quite included him right now. Also now Thomas Toy, who also will speak a little bit about. Then we've got dark orange, which means that those are for the players who have been dropped. Those are players who are fit, who are available, but not in the Springbok squad or kind of in the extended squad, or on standby, because you've then got players who are yellow. Now, those are players who are currently on standby, which means that they are still in the Springbok plans. Maybe not the immediate plans right now, but they are still in the Springbok plans. And then we've got red for the players who are retired and will not be playing for the Boks. Again, sadly, especially in the case of Steven Kitshoff, for example, a Dwayne Vermeulen, for example, while he went out on the top, best possible way you could go, retire with a World Cup title. But let's get into it, shall we? Because we should sort of see how this sort of shapes up. So there we go. Right, we'll start at the beginning, where we very controversially took two out-and-out hookers to the World Cup. We did have Marco van Staden as well as Dion Fourie listed as players who can scrum in the front row and who can play in the number 2 role. But we only took two out-and-out hookers, and that was very interesting given the fact that then Malcolm Marx got injured and we still chose not to bring in an out-and-out hooker. Fast forward 2 years, Malcolm Marx still in the squad, 31 years old. Bongi Manambi still in the squad, 34 years old. But we brought in a new face in Marnus van der Merwe. So, there hasn't been much change there, but very notably, we might have an heir to the Bongi Manambi throne. Marnus van der Merwe, 6 years younger than him, will be 30 at the next World Cup. Nice sort of age profile. And we've then got that option as well as Jan Hendrik Wessels. So we've effectively got 3 out-and-out hookers, as well as the Jan Hendrik Wessels who covers hooker as well. So we've gone from 2 proper options to basically 4 proper options, because they wouldn't mind starting Jan Hendrik Wessels at hooker. Is probably the main thing. If we look at props, as you can see, lots of issues. Trevor Nyakane injured, Frans Malherbe injured, Steven Kitshoff retired. So just 2 of the props from the 2023 World Cup in the mix in Rugby Championship 2025. There is Thomas Toy, who is in the mix. He's currently basically, just resting. So he is part of this sort of squad, in theory, but not part of the squad actually right now. So he's on the rest period. So he is a former World Cup winner. But now all of a sudden you can see you've got Vincent Koch there, Oxenshare. So who's coming there? So you've got Steven Kitshoff. Now Bowen Venter is currently in that position right now. So Thomas Toy, if there's no injuries, will not play against Australia. You probably find he's the one ahead of Bowen Venter in actuality. You've got no Frans Malherbe. Wilco Louw is probably, if we wanted to put him next to him, he is the natural replacement for Frans Malherbe. He's probably our number 1 choice tight head. Then you've got a Trevor Nyakane, who was a bit of a swing prop, played loose head and tight head. So you kind of got a Thomas Toy, you can kind of fill that role. You've got a young investor who basically plays prop and hooker, so kind of a bit of a different role. But then you've got Asnati and Klavakanya, and you can kind of look at the age profiles there. Vincent Koch, as we've spoken about in the last few weeks, is a worrying age profile. He's not old from a tight head perspective, but he is on the older side in terms of the rest of the group. The rest of the group, all 30 and below. Oxenchair will be if you take out Vincent Koch, Oxenchair is the old, Oxenchair and Volkalo, the oldest are 30 and 31. They'll be 31 and 33 at the next World Cup. Absolutely nothing to worry about. So automatically there, you can see props are something that we're going to have to probably rotate quite a bit to try and give experience in. Then we go to our locks. And what's quite interesting is if you look at Rugby World Cup 2023 versus Rugby Championship, we had one more loose forward back in 2023, but we've got one fewer lock than what we've currently got. And that basically is because of Kolbe's visa. Because right now, you could move Kolbe's visa into your back row, your loose forwards, for example, and all of a sudden, they would actually match identically. We typically take 5 locks to a World Cup. And if you look at, we've got the Fab Four, Eben Etzebeth, Franco Mostert, Loet Diaga, and Arceus Neyman. So there's no Loet Diaga back in 2023, which saw Marvin Uri basically drafted in. And Jean Klein came in as well. So those are sort of our 5 locks. We've currently now got the awesome foursome, as well as Loet Diaga back in the mix, as well as then a Ruan Nokia is coming, who's quite new, Kolbe's Visa, who's quite new. And you can see those two are the youngest players. So immediately we're talking about 2 younger players sort of coming into the mix. So you can kind of sort of see the succession plan here, really. Maybe question marks over Franco Master, 34 years old. Eben Etzebeth, question marks maybe over 33 years old with regards to where they can get there. I think they can both get there, but those will be the 2 we'll be monitoring the most, really, from an age profile point of view. But immediately, if those 2 were to retire tomorrow, number 4 lock, number 5 lock, number 5 lock, number 4 lock. So you sorted, basically. If those 2 retire tomorrow, you can keep these sort of players in, and off we go with our usual sort of 5. That's I think is the key sort of thing. You could then you could even we could go with 4, and you could have a Ruan Nokia, Etzebeth, Loet, Archia. Sorry, if you're taking out Etzebeth, you can go with Ruan, Loet, Archia, and Kolbe's Visa, for example. And Peter Steph-Toy could then shift back into the lock. So if you look at our back row, Peter Steph-Toy still around, Siya Kolisi still around, Kwagga Smith still around, Mark van Staden still around, Dwayne Vermeulen retired, so there's somebody we have to, in theory, replace. Deon Fourie currently injured, won't go to another World Cup, as far as I can see, really. Jasper Wiese still around, currently banned. So we've only got one new face in the loose forwards, and that is Jean-Luc du Preez. Look, we do have a Marco van Staden, who, from an age profile point of view, is absolutely fine. In fact, he's actually younger than Jean-Luc du Preez. You've also got Kolbe's Visa, who is also technically can cover part of the back row. So this for me over here is going to be interesting to sort of see what we do with our loose forwards, our flanks, and our 8th man moving forward. With regards to Vincent Stuka, who's currently not in the mix, he's on standby. You've got Cameron Hanekom, who's currently injured. You've got an Ulrich Lowe, who's currently injured. You've got a Joan Augustus, who's currently injured. So you've got options here, really. And they've also looked at Ruan Venter, for example. A Pepsi Buthelezi is floating around. We've got lots of options at loose forward. But the main thing is we still currently have kind of our core players involved in the squad. All of them, bar Marco van Staden, into their 30s. So there will be a couple of question marks. A lot of people questioning about whether Siya Kolisi might be able to make the next World Cup. So that's going to be an interesting sort of monitor that. If we then look at our scrum halves, we took 4 scrum halves. One of them currently not in the mix, and that is Jaden Hendrickse. Faf de Klerk, fallen out of the mix, currently on standby. He's been replaced by Morten van der Berg. I think we're seeing just a very natural progression here, really. Grant Williams has become our number 1 choice, basically. Kobus Reinach or Faf de Klerk. I think either of those 2 have currently been squads moving forward. If we went to the World Cup tomorrow, Faf de Klerk would come into for Morten van den Berg. We'd probably take those 3 scrum halves. But you can see a bit of a changing of the guard in the scrum halves, and quite an obvious changing of the guard. Jaden Hendrickse has kind of dropped out the mix at the moment, and he's based on 5th, 6th choice, really. Fly half is looking very healthy. We've got Handré Pollard, Marty Liebach, both of them went to the World Cup. They're still in the mix. They'll still be very good from an age point of view. Marty Liebach will be 30 years old the next World Cup. But we've added a 3rd fly half option in Sasha Famigama-Zulu, who's also kind of a bit of a utility back. So, fly half's point of view, we actually went with just Marty Liebach and Damien Willemse initially. Then Handré Pollard came in later on. If we go to the World Cup tomorrow, I think we'd actually probably look at taking all 3, in all honesty. I genuinely do. Because Sasha is a bit of a utility player, you could probably get away with taking all 3. Look at our centres. Lekanya on standby. Ethan Looker currently in. So again, we see a bit of a changing of the guard. Option out, option in. Very easy to... Look, Lekanya is currently injured, but very easy to see and also spelled wrong. Very easy to see that's your sort of replacement. But again, you look at the age profiles, 31, 33, 31. At this stage, I've included Caden Moody as an outside back. You could very simply put him into the centres, to be honest. We have 5 centre options. Much of a muchness. So that is, I think, quite the exciting thing, is you had 4 sort of out-and-out centres, really, at the 2023 World Cup with Caden Moody as an option. You've now got 4 out-and-out centres within the 2025 Rugby Championship squad, as well as a Caden Moody who doubles up. So basically, you've got 5 options in each squad. That's very standard. The big thing over here is that Handré Pollard has become a lock, a bigger option at flank, for example. He's become that sort of utility hybrid type of player. So his value in the squad has actually increased. Then if we look at our outside backs, pretty similar, in all honesty. Maximo Pimpi's kind of gone out. Edu Fandamona's come in. We've got an Uplater Fasu who's been drafted back in. So the big thing is right now, if you were to try and cut this 38-man squad to 33, you've got to kind of remove 5 players. Where do we see those 5 players? You will remove at least, probably for me, 2 of these outside backs. Maybe 1. But you definitely, for example, take out a video. That's 1. So let's try and take out 5. And I'm actually going to do a whole separate video on selecting our 2027 World Cup squad. But right now, you take out probably a Vili, and you probably take out let's say, an Asanate and Tlabakanye. So you've got 5 props there. So you're taking out 1 player there. You can probably take out 1 lock. So let's take out, I don't know, Kuba's Visa. That's 3. You've then got potentially you don't really want to take out a back row player, but you could. We did see us coping with 1 fewer hooker. So you're either probably pulling out 1 more forward between hooker and back row, or else you need to pull out 2 more backline players, in which case you're probably pulling out somebody like an Ethan Hooker can come out, and Caden Moody covers that. That's number 4, and then you probably have to pull out 1 out of the fly halves. Ideally, I'd probably take out 1 of the back row players, and go with 3 hookers right now. Or else I'll take out Bongi Manambi, keep Marnus van der Merwe. That's a nice way of doing it. You can take out Bongi Manambi, you can keep Marnus van der Merwe, you've got Andrew Vessels, as well as Marco Verstappen, and you can kind of cover at hooker. So you've got plenty of options. So immediately you can kind of see how you can kind of play around with the squad itself. In terms of some of the stats, of the 2023 Rugby World Cup winning squad, 68, call it 69%, so call it 70% of the squad is the same. Which some people are flagging as a bit of a problem. The fact that we've only got 30% new players. I don't think it's a bad margin. I'd like to probably see it get a bit close to 65, maybe 60%. But I think it would do without injuries. I think Cameron Honeycomb will be in the squad. I think that Thomas Toy will traditionally be in the squad. And I think that we'd probably see Vili phased out. We'll probably see Vincent Koch phased out. And I think Bongi Manami, those sort of 3 players are kind of probably top of the list right now in terms of players who might not make the next World Cup. Maybe Kubas Rana, which means automatically you can kind of think that we're probably going to go to the World Cup in 2 years' time with maybe 55 to 60% of a similar squad, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. You need that experience. Experience wins you World Cups. At the moment, 11% injured is a bit of a worry, although all 4 of those players are sort of on the older side. So, we're going to have to wait and see if France Mahuba comes back, Trevor Nyakana comes back, Jean Klein. I don't think Dion Farid's coming back. So you kind of got probably 1, maybe 2 of those players who might make a comeback. 3 players are currently on standby, so they're ready and good to go. 2 players who've been dropped, currently not really in the mix. We won't see Marvin Ori again, I don't think. I never really understood why he dropped out the mix to begin with, but yeah. And then 2 players who retired. So you kind of have a guaranteed 2 players that will be new coming into the next World Cup. What do you think, people? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. We'll be doing a predicted squad video next week, as well as a 2031 squad video, which is going to be a lot of fun as well, just to kind of see, in 6 years' time, look back and see how close we were. So start working on your squads. We might even do it as a live show and then kind of get to you to put your squads out there and, see what you have to think. But let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.